Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, a source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to the people that turn code and dreams into decentralized applications and reality. Today, we are joined by Trigs from Kleomedes DAO Validator. We spoke about passion, decentralization, business development, and transparency. We discussed the differences between hacks and exploits, avoiding attack vectors, and tech as a life choice. Finally, we talk about post-apocalyptic DAOs, gateway drugs for founders, code is law, cypherpunks, and tech as a life path. If you enjoy the Citizen Web3 podcast, please share this episode to your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values into the universe.
What does decentralization mean in terms of running a validator organization? And the professor was saying that all great entrepreneurs experimented with drugs when they were in high school. I believe that this is kind of one of our last chances to really make a change that changes the course of history. By distributing across bare metal servers all over the globe, we protect ourselves from that attack vector. A DAO is a dream. It's not something that's real yet. It's an idea of something that's possible. Transparency is one of the most crucial components to having credible neutrality.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast. And today I'm going to be talking with Trigs from Kleomedes Validator. Trigs, hey, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
I did the correct pronunciation, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, man. The Greeks are there. I'm sorry. Yeah, guys, before we started recording, I was doing it all wrong. And Trigs corrected me here correctly. So I'm just happy I'm doing it correctly. Everybody who listens know I always mispronounce things. I'm so sorry, guys. Trigs, how are you today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Just kind of getting my day started. It's morning here for me. So, looking forward to kind of diving in and talking about what we do and, just the interesting topics around validation. It's something that, I'm passionate about in the areas that I work in. So I'm always excited to kind of dive into it and talk about it.
Nice. Can I then ask you to do a small intro about yourself? Say anything you want, just like you started already, kinda. But feel free to extend it or don't. But that's up to you.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Trigs. I am one of the co-founders for Kleomedes. It's a decentralized validator organization. So we are working to try to figure out, what does decentralization mean in terms of running a validator organization? I'm sure we'll get into a lot of the details around that. But for myself personally, I am more focused on business development, coordinating with other projects. I do a lot of networking and connections. I'm not necessarily the technical person. I've worked in tech my whole life, but always more from like the business side of it. So that's my purview.
Man, I love it. This is you've been like in the small like 1 minute preview you touched like on 3 or 4 topics that I'm like, oh, let's talk about that. Like so. Ironically, you are the second decentralized. Well, people who introduce themselves as decentralized validators, you're the second guys on our show to do that. So you're not the first, which is cool. So I'm excited for this, man. I'm excited to talk about it. But before we get into the whole like depths of business development and decentralized organization, it's a lovely topic. I love it. Sorry. Why Web3, man? I mean, I don't know like to how much chance you had to listen to the show, but our show is a lot about values, I guess. And I like asking these founders, co-founders, why Web3? How did the story begin? I mean, you don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm Triggs, I'm going to build a decentralized organization, and that's my life from now on. So how did it happen? How did the life get you to this, man?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, I've been in tech for a while. I've pretty much been in tech since tech was invented. I was entrepreneurially like helping all of our neighbors get computers back in the day, like figuring out what an Apple 2GS was and the green screens and like old school stuff. So I've been, kind of just super tech focused, and right out of high school, started in college. I worked in the tech department, and as soon as I graduated college, I started working for a tech company. And so that's kind of just been my life, but I got pretty burnt out in it because of the struggles of working in the trad world, and all the corporate hierarchy, and especially from my perspective, like what I was doing in tech towards the end, before I exited, was basically figuring out how to remove people's jobs with technology. And it just really disheartened me because that didn't feel like the direction that I wanted my life to go. And so I just kind of gave up on it and I quit. And I actually spent almost a decade just being a landscaper, working for a small company. I was apprenticing as a stonemason and building stone walls and not doing anything with tech at all because I was just over it. And one day I was helping a buddy of mine buy a used car. And the guy that we bought the car from, when we gave him the stack of cash, and he was like, "All right, guys, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with this money because I think that you guys should look into it. I'm going to buy this thing called Dogecoin because it's totally like going to make a ton of money." And I was familiar with blockchain before that. I mean, working in the tech world, I remember when the Bitcoin white paper came out and I read it and, I looked into it and it just didn't appeal to me because I didn't see the application at the time. It seemed like an interesting economic experiment, but it wasn't something that caught my attention. And so I kind of just dismissed it and never really thought about it again. And then when this guy told me that he was going to buy Dogecoin, I was just like, that's crazy that he like actually mentioned that. Just it was such a random thing. And so I started looking into it. And that's when I learned about Ethereum and smart contracts and all the work that's been going on for the decade that I was out sticking my hands in the mud. And so I was like, man, I got to get caught up on this because I missed out on some really interesting stuff. So I just like dove into it. And as soon as I started researching it, I was hooked. And it's just been like diving down the rabbit hole ever since. And so the last uh, going on 3 years now, I've just been obsessed with it and learning as much as I can because to me, this is the answer to what drove me out of tech in the first place. The ability for people to coordinate in a decentralized way and be autonomous and like have self-sovereign identities of that encapsulates their value systems and it to me it is the future. And I think that I don't know. In some senses, I'm a little bit of a cypherpunk because I believe that this is kind of one of our last chances to really make a change that changes the course of history. I really appreciated Vitalik Buterin's whole defensive acceleration concept. Like the future has different paths. There's different ways that we can go, and it's gonna like the direction that we end up going is gonna be because of intention. We have to intentionally choose how we build the future. And so I want to be a part of that. And that's why I'm here to intentionally be a part of this, future that I want to see.
I mean, you're not hearing this, but it's like preach, man. Like music to my ears, brother. Like I man, I was talking. I don't know what to say because I have so many comments. I made like 10 notes, and I'm like, which one am I going to talk about? I was talking, recording. Sorry, not it's still not out. To a very cool Ancap dude that everybody knows, but I'm not going to reveal it. So anyways, and I was, man, I love hearing people come and talk about exactly the same reason that I'm here for. And just to calm you down, by the way, one of my first coins I bought was Devcoin, bro. So it's okay, bro. This is even worse than Dogecoin, man. But okay, so all this, but you have introduced yourself as as a co-founder. That means that there are other people on the team. And yeah, I said I'm interviewing you, of course, and I am, but I'm curious, how do you find, because what you just said goes much deeper. This is a tip of the iceberg. I mean, at least from I'm making an assumption, but knowing what I feel, kind of connecting to that, this is a tip of the iceberg that you're okay with explaining to the people before they run away usually. Man, you're in the right place, all good. But um how do you, and it's a question to you, not about your team so much, how do you as a co-founder find like-minded people that you can connect with such deep internal fucking values and build something together? I mean, that's for me, as for a person who's not for the first, anyway, sorry, just yeah, you understand the question, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I think part of it for me is that I just keep talking about it, like all my values, the things that matter to me, my passions. And I'm sure it's obvious when you see me start getting going because it's just like it. I can't stop myself. And so that's one of the things that really appealed to me getting into this space is that everyone has a platform to voice their thoughts. And if those thoughts resonate with other people, you just naturally start to like congregate. And so when I first started getting into Web3, I didn't know anybody, I didn't know anything. And it was really intimidating because it was like you could tell that it was a very small group of people who have known each other for a long time. I mean, most of the core builders in Web3 have been building together for the last decade. And I felt like I missed the boat by stepping out of the industry and playing in the dirt, like I said. And so it was like this intimidating kind of like barrier to break through. But I just put myself out there and started, writing about my thoughts, publishing my thoughts, joining communities and sharing my thoughts with other people. Sometimes people thought I was annoying and I talked too much. Sometimes people were like, dude, yeah, like preach it, like you were saying. And so I just keep putting myself out there and I keep taking that risk of being annoying or being a broken record or whatever, and just keep doing it and keep doing it. And if I push people away, then they're not the people I want to work with. And if I draw people towards me, those are the people that I want to work with. And that's literally how our team got put together. I mean, I was working for a different project. It was just like an investment club basically, and I was trying to figure out like, how do we build a decentralized investment club? And the people that got drawn into that project, a couple of them, one guy was like, hey, I got this other decentralized validator organization, I think like you could really help us, like, you want to like help us write our white paper? And I was like, yeah, sure. And as I started working with them, they invited me into the group, and we drew other people into the group, and community members have started contributing and rising up into positions of leadership, and now they're part of the core team as well. And for me, that's really how it is. You just put yourself out there and see what it attracts.
That's pretty much what it's in. But it's interesting. You know what? I'm gonna make a stranger comment than I was gonna do originally. It's interesting from my observation, and I'm gonna make like a nice assumption about myself here as well, and about a lot of other people. But all the good people in Web3 started with investment clubs. Like seriously, man, you don't fucking believe it. I've been talking today to somebody, and I realized that I've been getting paid in crypto by myself or by somebody else since 2015. I have not had any other income since crypto, and this is fucking a long time. But what I realize is that since that time and even before that, everybody who I've met who went on to build something and really because of values, man, seriously, I really made it like and highlighted. They all say, myself included, and a lot of other people I know, and like yourself just said, investment clubs. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's like a. What do you think? What's the reason that we all start over there? Because there are other builders who don't start with investment clubs. And usually they're not the good ones. I'm sorry. I'm going to like people are gonna hate me for this, but fuck it. I'm gonna say what I feel. So, like it is how it is. Like why do you think that could be that connection there?
I don't know. I guess maybe just a like-mindedness. Like we're looking for a similar thing. I was just reading something about correlations, and like the uh, somebody was saying how they were in a college class, and the professor was saying that all great entrepreneurs experimented with drugs when they were in high school. And one of the students was like, "Is it too late to start now?" But that's not the takeaway that you should make. It's not like doing drugs in high school doesn't make you a good founder. But if you're gonna be a good founder, you probably did drugs in high school because of the mindset that you have. And I think investment clubs is the same thing. Like good founders are drawn to investment clubs because it really speaks to a core like driving force that pushes them to do greater things after they move on.
Yeah, the drugs also help. Just saying,
Yeah.
but and not but don't just experimenting, guys. Anyways, no. To be honest, we had a lot of and a lot of this talk on this show before, so it's not a taboo subject at all. We can talk about that. But man, what is today the personal mission of Trigs? What is the where is like where is the point where you say, okay, it's done, it's succeeded, it's done, I've done it, thank you, hooray, I'm going to get drugs, holidays, and that's it, and nothing else?
That's a tough question to answer. I think for me, I want to feel like I actually accomplished something in the world that mirrors what I have in my mind. I've always been the kind of person that is driven by ideas. Every new experience that I have, like I'm very critical and very analytical, and I like to examine like the interactions between people and what they're doing and where the world is going. And come up with like solutions to problems, like identify problems and build a solution for it, or help people find a solution for it. And I think that's something I've been seeking my entire life, is that like creation of a solution that actually matters to people. And so my goal for every project that I've been involved in, but like Kleomedes is no different. I want to be able to leave the project someday. I don't want to own it forever. I don't want to be a Steve Jobs where I die wearing the Apple t-shirt. You know, like I want to get it autonomously functioning on its own so that I can walk away and it'll still keep growing, and maybe probably grow faster after I leave, because good founders don't make good operators. And so that's my goal as a founder, is to hand it over to somebody else who can operate it and do something better with it than I ever could.
Fuck, man! I just like saying absolutely that good founders do not make good operators, man. This is could not be, to in my experience in my life, this is could not be more than the like, if some man. Yeah, why didn't somebody was telling me that in school when I was like, I'm 37 now, you know, and people like keep on, now I know that, but you know, like when I was in school, I was like, man, why would nobody tell me that founders don't make good operators? No, but it's true, but it's fucking completely different cases, different skills, completely different mindset, completely different fucking everything. It's like, yeah, man. But talking about operating, let's from to you, back to you. Sorry, talking about operating. Let's talk like on the first, before we go into decentralized organizations, because I think that's what I would at least, yeah. But anyways, um, currently, what is Kleomedes as a validator concentrating on as a project in terms of public goods? Are you involved in any public goods, or you just validate? Or I mean, I can tell you how this question is based in terms of it's important. So originally, this show, even though it wasn't validator focused, but we did do validator interviews as far as 4 years ago already, was like, okay, if we all believe that Web3 is like what you say it is, then validators currently are the biggest fucking businesses and rotating. I want to know who I'm fucking delegating to, because these guys could be building an atomic bomb. And I have discovered over 4 years crazy fucking things with some of the biggest validator names in this fucking industry. So this is like, you know, my question. What are you currently guys doing? Or any plans to do anything? Or yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the midst of hopefully the tail end of, but who knows, a pretty protracted bear market, and so there's been a lot of atrophy across the entire ecosystem, and we're no different. You know, we're not immune from that. A lot of our contributors and main core team members are part time because they've had to pick up other work to pay the bills, basically. So we don't have a whole lot of like projects that we're building per se. I'm still full time, and as a business developer, like I'm not out there like writing code and building tools or do anything. So we do like what I see as our main value right now is that we operate a really solid bare metal validator node across 30 plus chains in the Cosmos ecosystem. And we run relayers, we run snapshots, like all the services that we can. We try to support all of the chains on the infrastructure level. And that's like the base foundation building block that every validator needs to have, right? Like if you're not doing that, you're not a validator. So that's been a big focus of just making sure that we're nailing that as much as we possibly can, considering that we're a bunch of volunteers and people that are self-funding this during a market where there's no money. You know, unfortunately, we got started right at the peak of the last bull cycle. And so we weren't able to capitalize on that to like build up a treasury of funds to sustain us through the bear market. So we've just been like doing everything we can to get through that. But in terms of like the value that we're offering, because I've been able to, because of my own, ability, I guess, it's a fortunate case that I'm in. And I think it's the case for a lot of builders, like working in Web3, it's a little bit of a side tangent, but working in Web3 is a privilege. You know, it's not something that is currently accessible to everyone because it is hard to get paid. And a handful of people have figured out, like yourself, how to make a living in Web3, but not everybody can right now. So for the most part, it is a privilege to work in Web3. And I feel privileged to be able to work in Web3, despite the fact that we've been going through a bear market. And so I've been using that for myself to focus on what I can do, what value can I bring to the ecosystem. And so I've been engaging in governance and engaging with the communities and projects that are working towards similar ethos-driven, kind of like value-driven projects, and trying to connect those projects together. So I'm working with organizations that are building solutions that we can't build because we don't have the resources to do. I would love to be, producing all kinds of tools to maximize decentralization, but that's not accessible to us right now. So instead, I'm finding projects who are already doing it. And I think that's the big unlock of Web3, is that ability to collaborate instead of compete. We don't need to have all these different groups in silos trying to copy the other person and do it a little bit faster and a little bit better so they can get to market first. Like everybody's always so obsessed that being that first person to market. And I'm trying to help people realize that there's a different way that we can work. Instead of this zero-sum game of competing, there's an opportunity to have a positive sum collaboration, and we can work together. And that's the beauty of open source software, is that we have that ability to build on top of each other. And it's not a bad thing to fork somebody else's code. You can work together collaboratively and encourage people to fork the code that you've made. Thinking about like the Arweave and Iris stuff that's going on right now. Iris is trying to fork Arweave, but they're doing it in a way that doesn't fit the structure that Arweave built for forking their code. Arweave knew that forking their code is important, and they built a process and a structure for people to do that. And I think that's the way forward, is to embrace this collaborative mindset. And so that's the public service that I'm personally trying to provide as a representative of Kleomedes, is engaging with these projects and showing them how they can collaborate with each other to build something that's more than the sum of their parts.
I think what you do is called ecosystem development. You should stop saying just, by the way, because that's not just what you're doing. No, it is just, isn't it? It's not little. You are doing a lot of things, guys. You're doing relays. Well, you're doing it all fucking bare metal. You provide an infrastructure for all. I mean, all these networks currently are dependent on this infrastructure, and your own network helps. It's ecosystem development. That's what I would call it. It's not maybe it's still a fancy word, but maybe it doesn't connect. But I made again a lot of comments here. So sorry, go on. You were going to say something. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I guess maybe the reason why I downplay ourselves a little bit is because as a validator who we don't have a strong developer team producing tools or, other like products in that sense. And so that excludes us from a lot of attention. Like when new chains, we have a really hard time getting into Genesis sets because everyone's like, what have you built? Show us your GitHub. How many commits have you made? And we're like, not really a whole lot, because that's not what we do. And so it's challenging to get recognition for the value that we feel like we're providing, because it's not something that is valued by the ecosystem.
I feel you, and I feel you for a lot of reasons, because it's one of the main reasons why we are going, for example, through this rebranding, which I'm not going to talk about right now, of course, because it's not about us. But you mentioned one thing which I wanna just mention, note about working Web3. Actually, one of the main reason. This is, like I said, there was a reason about understanding validators. It came secondary. The main reason was really to help people understand via other people and their stories that it's not impossible, that it might be hard and difficult, but there is an alternative way. And this was my kind of understanding, that this how I want to share, that instead of me trying to talk about my experience, I want to listen to the experience of the people who I think already are in there, already part of it. And just by telling their stories, not by saying here is a guidance for you or whatever, just by sharing what they say, and music to my ears, it's worked. For example, the guys from Stride, they said, hey, do you know that we found out about Cosmos before we started to build by listening to the podcast? I was like, are you fucking serious? And they were like, yeah, just listen to it one day. And I'm like, well, that's cool. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, and I wish that story would be true. Maybe it was anecdotal. I don't know. The guy said it, whatever. But even if it's like yourself, you're talking and you're saying the things you say, in my opinion, is exactly what is the gold, the real oil, the data, the gold. I don't know what else to call it, man. Whatever, like that's the value, in my opinion. Anyways, I would love other people to also hear that, at least. Yeah, man. Let me talk a little bit about bare metal and cloud, because actually, as part of our branding, I'm gonna share something I got today. My package that I've been waiting for so long. It's a fucking huge, 120 kilos of boxes of the server boxes themselves, because we're building a small server room here, and we are also going through the same process. And we're still in the process. Hopefully, by end of January, we're gonna turn on our bare metal plugs on. Tell me about it, man. Tell me why are you doing bare metal? I mean, I can probably already guess the answer, but tell me why you do bare metal, why not cloud, and how's that experience going for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the bare metal thing I think is really important. I mean, obviously, cloud computing increases accessibility, and decentralization is a process. You can't start out with maximum decentralization. You have to work your way towards it. And there's growing pains in that process. So it's unreasonable to expect that everyone is going to be able to do bare metal servers. I mean, I remember when Bitcoin first came out and I kind of dismissed it, but part of me was like, man, I got an old gaming computer. I could just like throw it in the closet and start mining. Maybe it'll turn into something someday. And like, I wish that I would have. And that was kind of like the promise of cryptocurrency and blockchains in the beginning, was that you could just, everyone can spin up their own validator. And we're kind of getting past that point now, because as block space gets more valuable, there's more competition for it, and that competition pushes out accessibility. And so cloud computing kind of levels that playing field a little bit and allows others to, get into the ecosystem and learn and participate. But in terms of like geo decentralization, it's essential that we have bare metal servers that are distributed globally everywhere. We need to have, a bare metal server on every single continent, at least one, probably two. Like redundancies are really important. For ourselves, like for one example, we had a server outage because of massive blackouts. So our server facility that we maintain is in Italy, and over this last year, Italy had some rolling blackout issues from power demand, and it was the first time that we had that level of a blackout. And so it was a real test of our fail safes. And, we do maintain some cloud servers to roll over to in case of situations like this. And we have a generator at our facility, but there were some issues with the generator during the blackout. So of course it was like, black swan event for us. But fortunately we were able to recover pretty quickly and got things rolled over to our cloud servers in time. And then power came back on. But it was a good test of like the challenges of operating a bare metal server. But in terms of like the value to the ecosystem, if everyone is running on the same cloud servers and there's a blackout at that cloud server facility, and that's not just one validator that went down. I mean, when we went down, it didn't affect the network at all. They didn't care that we went down. Our delegators, of course, cared, and we went through that whole process, and fortunately we didn't have any slashing or any kind of negative effects to any of our delegators. But if a massive server facility goes down, where all the, if Hetzner or some of the AWS facilities or something, if they happen to go down from some catastrophic event, I mean, it makes it a target, really. And you have to really think about security from a lot of different perspectives. And there could be some malicious actor out there who wants to take a network down. And if they do the research and realize like, oh, if I hit these 3 data centers, it's going to shut down 90% of the blockchains in existence. That's an attack vector. And so by distributing across bare metal servers all over the globe, we protect ourselves from that attack vector.
I overestimated myself. I was assuming that your answer is going to be more philosophical. I didn't give enough credit. I gave too much credit to myself. Sorry, for predicting what you were going to say. But I like that. I did. Of course, it's something I think about. But I was thinking more of a philosophical way of like, decentralization, all that. But yeah, it's a fucking huge attack vector. Like I remember understanding. It's also about KYC and Genesis. What are your thoughts, by the way, on that? That like, I mean, we all, regardless of our like deep end beliefs, I'm a realist. At least I'm talking about myself, for example, and I have to deal, just like I have when I buy Bitcoin, and I have to deal with the Bitcoin consensus. When I take in my hands euro, I have to deal with the consensus of the European Central Bank. That's how I see it. And unfortunately I do. I wish I didn't, but unfortunately I do touch that crap, and I have to. I don't have a choice. And like what I was going to say is that we all deal with big organizations, and we all or dealt with before, and we know that their security is crap. We hear about that breaks all the time, like they lost, I don't know, 1 million files here, 1 million files there. I mean, the guys cannot put, sometimes trillions of dollars. So what do you expect? But anyways, and here we are sitting, in like validators, there is some KYC guys that there is some small firm with one or two probably servers or three servers. Okay, maybe I'm underestimating again somebody here, but somewhere in a garage of whatever that has documents of almost every single like validator's dog, validator's wife name, their addresses, their bank accounts. God, that's a fucking attack vector. I mean, like, what do you think about that? Like, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, that is a pretty scary part of it. I mean, just working in crypto in general, like, I mean, Trigs obviously isn't like the name that's on my birth certificate. If people wanted to know who I was, it wouldn't be that hard. I'm not like obsessive about hiding my identity. And with AI face recognition, I mean, all you'd have to do is scan a picture of any of the videos that I've done, because I go on public videos all the time, and you could figure out I've got a Facebook account, so it's out there. Like everyone, the internet knows who I am. But it's still like there's a level of fear of what we're doing, because there's no regulatory clarity and you have no idea what direction that's going to go. And like the KYC stuff is really challenging, because there needs to be, in my opinion, there needs to be compromise, right? Like I believe in a decentralized future where there is less need for regulation, but only if we self-regulate ourselves. If we continue to just be like anything goes and it doesn't matter, and code is law, and like we want to believe that code is law, but code isn't perfect yet. And it's a long ways to go until it gets there. And who knows if we'll actually ever get there. And there has to be some sort of self-regulation on our side to create trust. I mean, we talk about like permissionlessness and trustlessness, but at the end of the day, we're trusting that everything that we've built actually does what we say it does. And we don't know for sure that there's, somebody could have slipped some code in there, or somebody just accidentally put a line of code in that had a vulnerability. And we see all kinds of exploits. Like there's a difference between a hack and an exploit. And exploits are following the rule of code is law, but they're accomplishing goals that are outside of the consensus of what is intended. And Ethereum encountered that, and that's why we have Ethereum Classic. And so there's always going to be this disparity of people who, believe that there should be no KYC and that everybody should be able to be anonymous and there should be no accountability, no consequences. And if you get, if something bad happens to you, that was your fault. And I guess that's not a world that I want to live in, but I also don't want to live in a world where everything is just controlled by Big Brother. So that's why I try to hold myself accountable, and I try to hold everyone that I work with accountable, to encourage that like mindset of self-regulation. And I don't know if that really, directly addresses your question, but I guess that's where my mind went when you asked it.
No. And I did want to ask you your opinions about validators and KYC. It's a topic that I like to ask about. I guess it's a good place though to ask you something like this very simple question: what is a decentralized autonomous organization for you? What's a DAO? Could you explain to me, to all the listeners, without, what? Let's do this. Let's make it more difficult for you, because I see you already like, I'm prepared for this. No, but let's make it more difficult. I'm 16. Tell me what a DAO is. But I'm 16, dude. I'm still in high school.
Yeah. A DAO is a dream. That's what I start out with. A DAO is a dream. It's not something that's real yet. It's an idea of something that's possible. And it is something that requires intention to build, and experimentation. That's another big part of what a DAO is. It's an experiment. Anybody who wants to be a part of a DAO needs to understand that they are joining an experiment that might fail, because just like any business, 99% of DAOs are going to fail because they don't know what they're doing. They're trying things to see what happens, but they don't know what they're doing. But to more clearly define it, I think a DAO is, so let's break it down into the three parts. So it's decentralized. Well, nothing is really decentralized yet. We're trying to figure out what decentralization means, but the goal for decentralization has to do with distribution and accessibility. So a decentralized organization doesn't have barriers to entry that prevent people from joining. Anyone can join a DAO and be a part of it to some degree. Autonomous. The idea of autonomy to me is that you're not told what to do. If you try to join an organization that says it's a DAO and they tell you what you can and can't do, then it's not autonomous. But there has to be some level of organization, which is the final part of it. So it's not like you can't just, it's not all chaos. In a decentralized autonomous organization isn't just a bunch of random people doing whatever they feel like. There has to be some structure. So that organization is like a collection of values that everyone holds to be true. They don't have to stay the same. It can grow and evolve over time, but it is a result of consensus. And so as a distributed group of people join a collective, and they all start presenting their ideas and their values, and then they come to a consensus around what they want to focus on as a group, that is forming a DAO.
I like that. I like that. It has a lot to it. I must say that I loved when you started with the dream. I loved it. I loved it. It was a very good 16-year-old, and it's a very good adult explanation, to be honest, too. So why? No, about the dream part, I think I know. Yeah. No, but it's true. Sometimes people give blockchains this magical. I hate it, and I mean I've been talking about blockchains publicly, like yourself, for a very long time, really, and. But what I hate is when people start giving this like mystical things that you don't need to do that. You can make it sound well. It is what it is. You can make it look grand without pretending it to be some fairy dust that it's not. Anyways, so let's shift the sorry, did you wanna say something? No, sorry. Let's shift the focus a little bit about how you introduced yourself, and in the first 2 minutes you said that Kleomedes, there we go, the correct pronunciation, runs a decentralized. There's a DAO on top of Kleomedes. How does it? Let's reverse and talk me through it. And please, I would love to understand how you guys work.
Yeah, I would too. It's a challenge. I mean, DAOs are like we were just talking about. They're undefined. It's an experiment, right? So I wish that I could just say give you the 5-minute spiel that just clearly outlines exactly what Kleomedes is, but it's not possible because we are a decentralized, a distributed group of individuals who all are autonomously just stepping into the space and doing what we think matters and trying to come to some consensus around it. And it's right now we're doing our year-end retrospective and looking back on the last year and examining what worked, what didn't, what were our goals, did we achieve them, to try to examine who we are and create some definition around what we want to do going into the next year. And so right now I have absolutely no definition of what Kleomedes is because we're in the process of reevaluating that. And I think that's an important part of every organization really, but for DAOs especially, because you don't have, I mean, we created a constitution. That was one of the first things that we did was we created this constitution and we published it as an NFT on our, multi-sig. And that constitution, it is just an idea of what we could be, and it has some concepts around how we could organize, and a lot of it didn't really necessarily play out the way that we identified it in the Constitution. And so we're going to be revisiting that and reassessing what we are and how we define our organization moving forward. But that's really what Kleomedes is to me, is that it's a playground for people who care about this ecosystem. I mean, the one thing that unites the majority of us that are involved in this project is that we very passionately care about the cosmos, and we believe in the narrative of the cosmos, and we want to do whatever we can to keep growing and perpetuating this ecosystem that we're a part of. And how we accomplish that is by everyone listening to each other and coming to consensus around what approaches we're going to take moving forward. And it's a very flexible, dynamic thing that changes over the course of months. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in the ecosystem. All kinds of crazy stuff happens almost every day, and we just have to react to it and adjust and keep moving forward.
A side question, but it's very short side question. I think you already mentioned it a couple of times that it's only Cosmos. You guys only validate for now. You only validate in Cosmos chains, right? You don't validate anything else for now.
We do have an ETH node running, but it's not funded. We just spun it up because we wanted to be able to join in like the injective set and some of the other EVM chains that require an ETH node. We are looking to expand into other chains. We would like to not just be Cosmos oriented, but Cosmos is a very accessible ecosystem. And so for our small size and the fact that we're self-funded, we have no VCs, we have no external investors, we don't have any institutional partnerships that are going to be like, here's a big chunk of money to get your validator going. So Cosmos kind of makes it accessible for us. So that's where we're focused.
And let me like give you the everything that you guys don't have, all of that, because believe me when I say the amount of stories I have heard about people coming on this show, big guys like you say, and publicly say, hey, I wish we never did have those VCs, because it's not the best thing in the world. But back to the conversation we were just having, if it's okay. Like, so what is the, for a normal user, not for myself, but for a normal user, I mean, I can like understand and joke about it, but I don't want to make jokes. I want to understand really. I don't want to understand myself. I want everybody who hears it to understand also what is the difference between Kleomedes today and any other validator that doesn't call themselves a decentralized validator. Like, how would a user be able to recognize the difference?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is transparency. Um, Everything that we do is completely public on the blockchain or in our Discord or whatever tools we might move to, because hopefully we can get off of Discord, because it is definitely not a decentralized tool, but it's the most accessible tool to engage a community, so we use it. And I'm constantly, as a business developer, I've got like 5 projects in my pocket that I'm just like trying to get to replace Discord. Like, how can we get Discord out of our lives? But that's a side note. So for us, like, transparency is the biggest issue. And there's so many validators that do great things for the ecosystem, but you have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. A lot of times you don't even know if they have investors or VC funders. There's like, you look across the validator list and you see like the commissions and the delegation quantities, and sometimes it's confusing. Like, how do you guys have a 50% commission rate and still get this many delegators? Where does that come from? Like, it's just like things don't add up. And so for us, we maintain 100% transparency. Every single commission that we earn on every single validator flows through our multi-sig, and every single expense that we pay out, everything that monetarily that happens in our organization is completely trackable on the blockchain. And so everyone knows what we're doing with the commissions that we're making. And I think that's a really important part that I would like to encourage more validators to start doing, because transparency is one of the most crucial components to having credible neutrality. In Cosmos, we have this massive issue with, like, there's the top 10 validators that are the same across every single blockchain, and nobody really knows their intentions or their motivations, and yet they entirely control the decisions that are made on every single chain. Any controversial proposal that gets put up, they're the ones who decide, and we have no idea why they're making the decisions they're making. So that's the long answer to the short answer is transparency.
Please go on as long as you need, man. That this is exactly what I'm looking for. But just about intentions, I'm gonna make a second of self-advertisement, guys. If you want to know the intentions of the big guys, this is exactly what we've been recording these shows for. Go on the episode leads. You will find P2P, Stakefish, everybody before they made it big. You will find them there. So some of them, I can tell you, you will discover very crazy intentions and things about that. Yeah, sometimes makes you think. But anyways, by the way, as a side note about Discord, I deleted all mentions of, I still have the Discord server, but I deleted all mentions of it today on my website, because I was like, on the Citizen Web3 website, because I was like, no, man, I don't want this, man. People want to go, at least I'm gonna keep a Telegram announcement channel, but if people find it, they find it. I'll keep it, because there's a lot of things there, but I don't want to advertise that we have a Discord. I understand, I feel you, bro. Man, what about, do you know, I'm gonna put, like, for a second my I've been talking to a lot of validators hat on for a second, and play a little bit devil's advocate maybe. So do you know post-human validator, the post-human DVS?
Yeah,
because they're the second. guys to so their approach to this great decentralized validator is a bit different from yours, as far as I understand. Like, your approach is saying, okay, we're gonna start at the very top, which is the operator, and try to decentralize the operator, but still. Now, I don't know, because I don't know the details, but there are people who run it via DAO and everybody can see it. Now, but does that mean somebody can join your DAO, for example? If I, for example, wanted to be a co-owner of not co-owner, uh, I'm doing some brackets here, right? But quotation, sorry. Like, can I? Yeah, man, I'm lost. I need some more
Yeah.
info. Sorry. I'm
No, for
sorry about
sure.
it.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I would say that you're correct in saying that we can post-human and us are going about it in a very different way. One of our um, team leads right now actually initially tried to join the post-human team. They started delegating to them and wanted to be a part of the community and joined the DAO, so to say. And they were like, "How do I get involved? How do I contribute?" And the team was like, "Sorry, we're not accepting contributions from the community at this point." And he was like, "Oh, so I can't really be a part of the DAO." And so then he found Kleomedes, and now he's one of our team leads. And so that's very much so what we're trying to do is open the path towards community contributors, because not everyone can operate a validator. I mean, the reason why I'm a part of this team is because I don't have the technical expertise to run the infrastructure. I would love to be. I always wanted to be a part of a validator because like you said earlier in the show, validating is the big business of blockchain right now. And I recognize that very early on, like, validating is where it's at. We need to like work on this part of this layer, the validator layer, build that infrastructure so that the businesses that come later have something to work from. And so being a part of an organization like Kleomedes for me is, the step forward into Web3. But I couldn't have done it without access to a decentralized group. I mean, I probably could have like found a team that was hiring a business developer and just joined a centralized team and been a part of a larger organization. And sometimes I wonder if maybe I should have, because this is really hard doing it this way. It's really hard. But I've never shied away from the hard path, and it's exciting to me to try to figure out, like, how do we make this work? It very much so is an experiment, and I have no idea how it's going to play out. And we've been kind of like backpedaling over this last year and realizing that we do need to centralize our team a little bit more and have a little bit more like structure in the center. We went a little too decentralized too fast, which was a really common problem. I mean, a lot of DAOs realized that over the last couple of years, that you can't just like go full decentralization. So that's kind of what our goal for this next year is, to create a little bit more structure, but we still want it to be open, because I personally recognize that the biggest thing that Kleomedes needs is more leadership. And I want to encourage people in the community. That's why I'm always out there, engaging with the community, talking with people on governance posts, and trying to find the leaders that are out there. And I want to attract them to our project so that they can join us and help us grow, as well as help the ecosystem grow, because we can't do it just ourselves. And so that's kind of like the ladder, I guess, is like anyone can. It starts out at the bottom. Just be a delegator. If you want to be a part of the DAO, you can just be a delegator. You'll earn some access to the DAO. You'll become a member, and that's all you have to do. But if you want to do more, you can start making some memes or making some tweet threads or whatever. Like, there's this like gradual progression of contributor, increasing your contributions to the project, and the more involved you get, if you find yourself in a niche where like you have a passion that you really value. So like the reason why I'm on this podcast is because one of our community members has worked with you guys, and he saw the work that I was doing with, I was trying to like get a podcast going or do some like Twitter spaces, and he just volunteered to help. And so now he is growing into a position of leadership in our organization, assisting me in developing, our media presentations. And who knows, someday he might be in charge, or maybe that's as far as he goes, and because that's all he's interested in. And that's the structure that we want. We want accessibility, so anyone can just follow their passion and take it wherever they want it to go. We want to support that kind of community initiative.
This is music to my ears. I love hearing that when I work, and I know that this is not what I should be paying attention, but I'm human like everybody, and of course I'm gonna make that comment. I'm sorry, but this is music to my ears. When you say that somebody who works with me is now like, well, I'm like, yay! But of course I know that who you're talking about. I can guess, I understand by the Twitter comments, but it's awesome. I love when things like that happen. And by the way, but just to make it clear for myself and for everybody as well. So you said if you stake to us, you kind of I get access to the DAO. So, but just to really clarify the 101 here. So I go on Kepler or whatever it is because this is Cosmos, right? I stake, and then how? What is the next point of entering the DAO? Like, what is the next step?
Yeah, so we do a token distribution. So our DAO is managed by token. And so all of our delegators receive a share of token for their like portion. We do like a bunch of math calculations and figure out our entire like structure and then break it down to how much each delegation is a portion of the greater whole across all of our networks, and then distribute a certain amount of tokens to all delegators. And it's really small. Like we're not trying to, I mean, to some degree, like as we grow and generate more revenue, that token might become more valuable. But the idea for the delegation really is just to get delegators engaged and have a sense of ownership in the validator by having a token that represents governance as well as future revenue share.
Perfect. And just like a small note before we go into the blitz, we have to do it as Citizen Web3 because currently Citizen Web3 actually has a share in the post-human validator stake. So I think I want to keep this up. I'm gonna be I want to keep on doing it because I mean it makes sense now. I mean, if we're all building the same thing here, so yeah, I need to not to. I already made myself a note to do that and to from the Citizen Web3 account and to do to enter the DAO. So yeah, man, a small blitz. Well, small. It's got 5 questions. It's not that small because it's never a blitz. I call it a blitz, but it never is. It's something we talk about for 5-10 minutes with people, and I love it. I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. Give me one answer for each one, but feel free, of course, to elaborate on the answer if you wish. So, okay. Okay. Yeah, let's start with that. Give me one book or movie that recently had some sort of influence on you or what you do currently in terms of your life and your work.
Yeah, I actually recently have been watching through the whole Walking Dead TV series, which you said book or movie, but I mean, it was a web comic and a TV show. But it's been really fascinating to me. I mean, I don't know. My personal opinion is it's not very good. I didn't watch it. I watched the first episode when it first came out, and then after that, the second episode, I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to watch it. But a friend of mine got me back into it, and so I've been rewatching it, and it's fascinating seeing the portrayal of human coordination and the different types of human coordination that happen in a post-apocalyptic world, like building DAOs and then watching this show. It's just the whole time like, wow, I'm like learning so much about how to like humans work together and collaborate and coordinate. And I don't know, it's just really interesting looking at it from that perspective of like thinking of all the different groups in Walking Dead as individual, kind of DAOs or whatever. And the natural leadership structures and all the challenges that they faced, and leaders that don't want to be leaders, but they have to be because they have the skill set that's necessary and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I'm gonna reveal a secret. I watched the whole show just pretty much for the same. I like post-apocalyptic shows pretty much for the same reasons. I like to see how they solve the problem. Like that is my like thing. Give me one project, and I'm talking about a blockchain project currently. Please don't say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cosmos, because that's a bit. Well, you can, of course, but it's up to you. Please then give me an explanation. Give me one project, a blockchain project that arouses curiosity in from within yourself personally.
Um, I recently came across a project called Galactica. They're building an L1 chain on the Cosmos, and it's like a network state concept. If you're familiar with the term network state, they're calling theirs the cipher state. But it's been an absolutely fascinating experience getting onboarded into this community because it's so different from everything else that I've experienced in blockchain.
I can't believe how small this world is, man. This is fucking ironic. This is we are in the middle of launching a galactic node as well. So like, yeah,
Nice.
the world is small. What can I say? Um, I'm sorry, man, to this reaction, but it was just funny because it's just really, as it happens, it was really like, yeah, the world is very small. Give me one technology direction. It could be blockchain, could be AI, could be machine learning. I don't know, whatever that you think is very interesting to watch as you are part of it. Like you are happy that you're part to be alive during when that development happens.
AI personal assistants is absolutely the most fascinating thing to me. I've been fantasizing about AI personal assistants ever since the original Iron Man movie and Tony Stark interacting with Jarvis. It was just like, to me, it was obvious that Tony Stark achieved the success that he did because of the power that Jarvis was able to provide. And if every single person in the world could have access to a sovereign AI personal assistant, like that's the part that's really crucial, and that's where blockchain comes in. It can't be some corporation who's building some AI tool that runs on your phone that's tracking everything you're doing and sending all of that data back. It has to be a local AI on a smartphone that has a secure enclave that you control, and that's the important part. But once we get that technological layer in place, that personalized AI assistant is going to revolutionize every individual's ability to be their best self.
Man, again, music to my ears, man. I don't know what to say, man. It's just like I cannot play devil's advocate because that's what I think. So you're not allowing me to be me. No, I'm joking, of course. Give me one motivate. No, this is gonna be the next two are a bit more difficult. Well, at least that's what people say. Give me one motivational thing that helps Trigs to get out of bed every day, think about decentralization, keep on building DAOs and whatnot. Something motivational.
Just the knowledge that I can do this. Like if I wasn't doing this, I would have to be doing something else that makes me hate my life. Like most people that I know, most people have like my a good friend of mine. What gets him out of bed in the morning is the espresso machine that he has set on a timer. He hears that the water bubbling, and he knows that there's espresso getting him out of bed. And to me, that's just like so demotivating because that's the most exciting part of his day is to just get a straight shot of caffeine right into his veins. And for me, like I wake up thinking about the problems that I'm going to solve that day. I woke up this morning thinking about this podcast, and that got me out of bed because I was excited to talk to somebody who was interested in my thoughts. And so that's the motivation for me.
Thank you, and I love that you said that. That was very nice and really connected it again because. Yeah, I don't know. Waking up to, I mean, I don't want to diminish your friend, but having the best part of you. You know what? I'm gonna share something else. There's a guy who's been on the podcast twice, I believe. Yeah, I think the Willie from the Fox Chain and all that. The first time he was on the podcast, he said that when I asked him how he is, he said, "I'm having the best day of my life." And then we went on the whole conversation, and apparently, it was it did such an imprint on me. He's been saying for 5 years, and I've checked with people that know him on different podcasts that it's true, and people have been really saying that it's true. The guy says every day for 5 years, when somebody asks him how is, I'm having the best day of my life, and he says, "Well, I am living it because I've been saying it for 5 years," and that's exactly what you said right now. I think it connects to, I don't know, in my head at least. So, last one. Dead or alive, real, made up, cartoon, developer, I don't care. A persona, character, a real person, a real human being that during your lifetime, not your guru. I personally don't believe in gurus, so I always like try to highlight it. Somebody who inspired you to do somewhere or somehow to do what you are doing today.
I would say probably the most inspirational person in my life has been my grandpa. I grew up on a farm out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the United States, and he, lived on the farm with us. So as a kid, he was like my best friend, and he was always just a huge inspiration to me. So he went blind and deaf in his like 50s and 60s. It kind of just like faded out all of a sudden. And even though he lost like two of the most key senses that a human being relies on, it never got him down. He still taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to tie my shoes. It's just like a massive inspiration for me in my life, and continues to be as I go forward in life.
Man, that is a very touching thing. And my grandfather is interesting. I can connect it a lot, and yeah, makes me very sad to think. It made me very scary to see my grandfather have dementia, and it's not because I was scared of what he was going to do, because he has inspired me. I understand what you mean. It's a person who's inspired you, and then you see that happening, and there's nothing you can fucking do, nothing. And man, thank you for sharing that. That is a very very touching moment. And thank you for sharing everything you have shared, Trigs, and for all your thoughts, and for keeping on doing. I hope that you will go away thinking about the motivational thing that we spoke about. And man, thank you for coming on, and thank you for talking to me, Trigs.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been great. I've been enjoying listening to your podcast, and just appreciate the opportunity to continue talking about myself, because I'm hoping that other people can hear this and be inspired themselves. And you don't have to join Kleomedes, but I think that it's important for people to follow their passions and put yourself out there and see who you attract. Don't be afraid to just be yourself and get a community of people around you, and who knows, you might change the world.
Thanks, man. Please don't hang up just yet. This is just for everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in, and hope to see you, hear you next time, guys. Thanks. Bye.
This content was created by the Citizen Web3 validator. You may support our work by delegating to any of our nodes.